Many parts of the world is celebrating Eid today. So all of them Eid Mubarak. I hope you are enjoying your Eid and celebrating with your loved ones. Ralph Waldo Emerson rightly said, "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead, there is no path and leave a trail." People's Voice speaker today is renowned for making its own path that is followed by others. He is quintessential example of a strong and great leadership. I have had an opportunity to work with him, and now he's kind of my mentor too. Whenever I have a doubt or get stuck in my leadership journey, he is the first door I knock on. And trust me, he's always available in spite of having such an extremely hectic schedule. And now I can see that he is in chat room, so let me just send him invite. If you have any question, as I always say, please forward your questions, comments in the chat room, and I will try to touch upon those questions as much as I can. Hi, Titiam Ali.
Hello. Hi, dear Nasima. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
I'm doing fine. Now, is my video all good?
It's good, but if you can tilt it, make it vertical, that would be better. Now it's like horizontal.
Okay, let me try doing this. Okay, but here I might lose focus. So,
Oh, are you comfortable now?
well, I prefer it this way, but how do I
But
change?
are you
Because
uncomfortable with the phone? You don't. What's the problem there?
it's the earphone basically. I don't want to use the earphone. I don't want to lose the earphone. So what I'm
Okay.
gonna do,
If you can
um,
support it with something below, because then my video will be vertical, your will be horizontal.
okay. Is that okay now? Am I audible?
Yes, very much.
Perfect. Okay, I'll get rid of the earphones then.
Better. We can see you better now.
Yeah. Great.
DTM, before I get into speaking, we get into a deep conversation. Let me just briefly give you introduction to our speaker. And before I give introduction, let me just tell you all, I'm gonna address him as DTM Ali, Distinguished Toastmasters, because he has achieved the highest level of education program in Toastmasters. So just out of high respect for him, which he deserves, I'm going to address him as DTM Ali. DTM Ali, Shahbaz Ali, is a former lecturer and course coordinator at the Bahrain Polytechnic, educator and entrepreneur. Did research for robotics and artificial intelligence. In public speaking organization Toastmasters, he led the largest district in the world in 2016, consisting of 7 countries in the Middle East, over 360 clubs, and more than 7,500 members. Wow. Currently, he is a region advisor for Region 11 that includes Middle East and Africa region. People's Voice warmly welcome you, DTM Ali Shahbaz Ali.
Thanks a lot for that wonderful introduction. You told me, dear Nasima, that our audience is not all Toastmasters, so I really don't know if they actually understood what is DTM all about, what is leadership all about here. So I just hope that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, and if you can try to keep the leadership answers more generic, that would be great.
Yeah. Sure. Sounds good.
Uh,
Yes.
DJ Mali, in my introduction, I introduced you as you led 7 countries members. That's a large community. So at the onset, I would like to ask you how tough it is to be a leader for the 7 countries.
Well, just to give you a background from the organization where I come from, Toastmasters International, the whole movement started back in 1964 in the Middle East. Originally 1924 in Santa Ana, California, by Dr. Ramses Medley. In the Middle East, since we are talking about my journey, it was since 1964. In 2004, I joined Toastmasters International. Those days,
Oh,
we used to be 8 countries in one district, I would say. By 2011, we became two districts in the Middle East. One was District 79, which was Saudi Arabia, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the other 7 countries out of the 8 became District 20. So here is the opportunity in 2016 when um, I got the opportunity to lead the district with 7 countries, supposedly largest district in the world at that time, keeping the number of clubs in mind. It wasn't an easy task, if that's your question. It was tough for sure, Nasima. And the most important thing is if you're mentally ready to go ahead and serve such a large district. I was mentally prepared for it, and that's why I made it easy for myself. I knew what's coming in. I understood there will be diversity, there will be conflicts, but I took all this as an opportunity. Uh, I had a time management plan. My weekends became my Toastmasters travel thing. I used to travel mostly on weekends. I changed my weekdays into my weekends for my personal life. So that's
oh,
just a tip what I try to do going around 7 countries. And I was quite open-minded with different cultures that we have. I come from Bahrain, and half of my family comes from India. I still have relatives in India. So here is where I have best of both the worlds. So that worked in my favor, you see. So I could get along with different people. I have relatives in US, for example. I could talk to people from all walks of life, and I was quite open-minded, quite curious to learn different cultures. And uh, that didn't make it so tough, for example, to run the whole district. If you're
okay.
mentally prepared for it, it's all fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you mean that it was quite tough, but because of your diverse background, it has helped you to a great
That,
extent to cope
that,
up
that
with such a large community.
that's one important point, Nasima. And as I said, I was mentally quite ready to lead such a diverse, multicultural uh, part of the organization in the Middle East. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, our professional experience also speaks in this. I love working with people from different backgrounds, so that
Okay.
was anyway there. So
Uh-huh.
when somebody, like once we had a district council, and one person told me he was a vegetarian, and he came up to me and he told me that Ali, can there be a separate section for veg food?
Oh,
So
okay.
it was like, we from the Middle East. I was like, okay, why separate section for veg food? But then
Yeah.
I did a quick talk with a friend of mine from the same background, and he said, yes, there are vegetarians purely. I mean, we do understand vegan, but it's like vegetarian. That was like at that time, okay. I quickly spoke to a friend next to me, and they told me, yes, in this culture, uh, people do want a separate section for veg meal altogether. And I immediately got that done. I spoke to our logistics manager of the district, and arranged a vegetable section or vegetarian section separately immediately. So this is some interesting things. We have to be open-minded. We
True.
cannot say one size fits all while leading
True.
such a big district.
I am sure it was a really tough job, but
Yes,
I can't even imagine. You have just given a silly example. The
exactly.
deepest challenges I can't even imagine. But as you are into leadership, I would also like to ask you that they say
Mhm.
that leaders need to be diplomatic. Is it true? And if yes, why? Why leaders need to be diplomatic?
Well, in my personal experience, since time is short, Nasima, in the
Yeah.
first question also, I have a different kind of a keynote or a not workshop, a keynote address for that question which
Hmm.
you just gave. working in diverse environment. Now, this question also calls on one of the keynote addresses I gave at some point of time, where diplomacy or no diplomacy, it all depends on the situation.
Okay.
Throughout my leadership, uh, if you inquire about with Toastmasters, at least in the Middle East, I haven't been very diplomatic in most of the situations because I really want people to learn um, out of these experiences to grow. And there are times when we have to give them some tough love. We have to direct them towards new learning. There are also times where I was very understanding, but if this kind of, I wouldn't say mistake, I would say this, if this thing continues again and again from the same person, there is where we can question why is it happening again when the person was directed towards the place, resources, the person was told that you should be training yourself. You should be taking so much from what we are giving to you in form of training, advices. But if we see this as a repetition, there is a chance where we need to go up straight, talk straight. Diplomacy does not works here always.
Always.
But
Yeah.
there is advantages, there are disadvantages in both the styles. We can always start being with the diplomatic style, and that's better because in that style we don't bring our own emotions.
True.
But if it is continued from the same source again and again, here is where we need to understand that diplomacy is not working.
So you believe diplomacy is not needed always, maybe sometimes depending on the
Exactly.
situation.
Exactly, at least in my experience.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
DTMLE, also I would like to know there are so many beginner fresher who are going to embark their journey in leadership. Them, what core traits you will recommend irrespective of the field? Toastmaster, non-Toastmaster. What are the core traits? If you can briefly touch upon
The,
it.
so Nasima, the core traits, which again, with my experience, it's the commitment to learn and the commitment to serve. This is very important. Sometimes leaders do want to jump to serving without having the basics right.
Okay.
So once you get your basics right, then serving is even a better, I would say, a joyful experience. So learning, commitment to learn is very important. Whatever field it is, if we don't commit to learn and we just want to serve, that's not a full equation. So we need to learn and then we need to serve. And the beauty about our organization, Toastmasters, is when we
Okay.
learn and when we serve, we actually are indirectly polishing our own skills. So we are still learning more.
True.
It's like we have gone to the advanced level of learning now.
Uh-huh.
So, so that's what I would tell young leaders. Commit
Mhm.
yourself to learn and then commit yourself to serve.
Yeah, the leaders, the young leaders out there, so you got the message that before you start leading, you need to learn yourself and then go ahead leading people so that even you get benefit as well as your members, your audience get benefited from your leadership role. Dilya Mali,
Exactly.
you are into in leadership roles for quite some times, maybe more than 17 years. What
Yeah.
leadership has taught you?
Since 17 years, what leadership has taught me, that's a good question. It has taught me accountability, and that's very important.
Very.
Since time is short, I would only stick to one of the things, which is accountability. As leaders, once we step into this, we need to be accountable. We can't come up with excuses all the time. If I was given a task to lead a district, if I was given a task to lead a small club, a Toastmasters club, just say with 15 members, 10 members, or if I was given a project, I have to be accountable for my actions. Um, I need to have that professionalism to reach out. I have to communicate in terms when I need help from people, and that's very important as Toastmasters. We
True.
really need to reach out, we need to communicate. If we
Hmm.
don't reach out as a leader, what I've noticed, if I don't reach out for help, I can't complain that nobody helped. And this is what I started doing even in my professional organization. I started to reach out more often without assuming that people will understand what I really need.
True.
So this is what I learned in short. You need to reach out. You need to be
True.
accountable.
Yeah, accountability, communication skills, and reaching out, I'm sure it's important in any leadership role, whether Toastmasters, non-profit organization, or any field in the corporate world. Very well said,
Exactly.
DTM Ali. And as you said, you were a leader. You were leading 7 countries. So I'm sure there will be lots of conflicts. How you dealt with those conflicts in such a big
Well,
community?
such a big district with lots of clubs in it. Yes, conflict goes without saying, and
True.
sometimes conflicts happen even in smaller clubs we have. What I can recall, and even now, as the region advisor for Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan, what what I realize is if we are solving a conflict between two people or two teams, to keep some things very confidential, which are sensitive, is very important. And if we leak it out, if we tell team A that there is a conflict and team B already told me about this about you right now, so it really increases the conflict. And this is my message to many leaders: when you are solving a conflict, you don't have to go out and tell them A to Z what's happening in the whole process. And people will reach out to you and they would come and say, what did the other team say? And if I'm the investigation officer, here is where my leadership is tested. How much can I hide and how much can I say? I talk to people and I know what is happening. I know what I've heard. There are evidences, but I cannot just go out in the open and say, well, I heard this about you, or this is a very bad example of leader. So, of being a leader. So, resolving conflicts, first thing is confidentiality. The people involved talking to the investigating officer must always remember that there should be a trust between them. If someone is a whistleblower here, we can't go out and say things out in the public. So that's quite important. And with my leadership, I've learned to keep so many things within me instead of letting them out, and only
Hmm.
let out what is fine.
Hmm.
So that's very important, the confidentiality. And
So conf-
the other thing is, of course, thinking on what are these members thinking, being in their shoes, their perspective, to have that unbiased attitude. Even if the person belongs to my own club or my own team, if some other organization, my own nationality, I have to ignore all that. I have to be unbiased, and that's the only way we can solve this conflicts.
Mhm. So the key to solve any conflict is the very most important is
Exactly.
confidentiality, and then being unbiased, which is necessary in every walk of life, any conflict, I believe.
True, true.
And we are almost towards the end, but before you leave, I would like to ask a very last question, and that is for all our buddy leaders. Any takeaway lessons for aspiring leaders in corporate world or a non-profit organization?
Well, I would say is accept challenges. If you belong to non-profit organization, we know it's a very voluntary work. Nobody's going to pay us for this. We do it out of service. We want to serve people around us, help people come up with better lives. In our organization, Postmasters International, we help people to become better communicators, better leaders. Uh, that's the core of it. So take this to your corporate world, take this to your personal life too. Sometimes what we learn in Club A, we take it to Club B, for example. And I always tell people, take it back to your professional life, your personal life. At least 1% of it, get started with it. And when we get started with time, we will probably take 100% of what we learn in our non-profit organization to our professional lives, to our personal lives also. I personally have seen one person very different in a non-profit organization and very different in corporate world. If he or she was confident in the non-profit organization, that confidence is not there in the corporate world where they work. So there, it's not parallel. So there is a problem. There is a problem of applying those skills. So as leaders, as learners, as seekers, what you learn, apply them 360 around you, even if it has to be a smallest portion of it. Sometimes we can't apply what we do in non-profit organization
Yeah.
anywhere else. If I'm the region advisor in this organization, I'm not region advisor at my work, and I need to digest that fact. So I'm
Hmm.
more of a follower there, you see. But I'm a leader in non-profit organization, so
Hmm.
I have to follow instructions given to me by my boss. So if I'm going to go out there and tell him, "Excuse me, I'm so and so there," it won't help me. So I need to
Uh-huh.
take out some skills. When I was a learner, also, I'm still a learner in my non-profit organization and apply it where I work. And that's how I build myself in both places. And here is where people have this big fall in either one of them, profit or non-profit, because things
Oh.
don't align well. And that's a workshop which I might give someday.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Nasima. Some great questions, and you gave me some tips to come up with different keynotes already.
Thank
That's
you so
amazing.
much, Didi Amali. It was pleasure having you on People's Voice. Thank you for your precious time. I'm sure the insight which you have given us about leadership will definitely help so many people out there. Once again, thank you so much for coming on People's
Yeah.
Voice.
Thanks a lot, Nasima. It's my pleasure, and I'm happy to on what you're doing, bringing different personalities always, and I'm kind of learning from other people who are not part of my field. I would just like to say thanks to some messages that I see here. Thanks a lot. I That's the first time I'm doing an Insta talk, by the way. I've done other talk, but here is
Uh-huh.
what opportunity Nasima has given to me today. She gave me an opportunity to learn how to Insta talk. So thanks a lot. And I'm going to
My-
work on this skill always. So thanks a
that-
lot to the audience for your beautiful comments. I can see them.
Thank you, Didi Amali. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Ha! That was Stadium Ali Shahbaz Ali from a public speaking organization to his masters. Wow, that was so much insights about leadership role, and I'm sure you must have got something that you can help in your professional, personal, or in non-profit organization. So keep writing to us your questions, comments, recommendation. I am looking into all of it, and I'll try my best, as I always say. Thank you for watching People's Voice. Take care, stay safe, stay home. Good night.